right, so let's get right into it. Are you guys pivoting to tax reform, and if so, what's the timetable?
We're in a very strong position to get tax reform done, Kevin, and get it done this year. Last week, you had the 6 principals working on the framework on which legislation will be written, agreeing on some major issues. We released a joint statement unified in our belief that tax reform is what's needed to stimulate sincere and large economic growth that's sustainable around 3%, and massive stimulation of job creation and repatriation of profits back into this country to invest in businesses and lowering our small business rates. So when we have that type of agreement, we are ready now to have the committees of jurisdiction, Ways and Means in the House, Finance in the Senate, begin working on this legislation. You have House members going back to their districts, continuing the conversation with their constituents. I could tell you Secretary Mnuchin and Gary Cohn from the NEC have been meeting with over 200 members of Congress, hundreds of grassroots groups and business leaders, and we're prepared to really advance tax very quickly.
One of the things I thought was interesting about that memo you guys released last week was that it excludes the border adjustment tax. That's out of it. That's left out of tax reform. What about this issue of revenue neutrality? You talked to House Freedom Caucus members, Chairman Mark Meadows, Representative Jim Jordan. They've got some concerns about this revenue neutrality.
Look, we're focused on a pro-growth tax plan. And when you look at growing the economy at a sustained rate around 3%, you're talking about nearly $2 trillion added to this economy over 10 years. That's significant economic growth, and that's what we're focused on in this tax plan. We certainly have other ideas about broadening the base and having some other aspects that clearly are going to go toward paying for tax, but you have to include the fact that sincere, large, sweeping economic growth that we have not seen since the financial crisis is going to be the centerpiece of this tax reform.
Tony, I was looking at some of the stock market records that you guys have been listing, and it's been very successful. There's no question about that in terms of economic indicators, in terms of stocks. But you look at the dollar, and that's where we've actually seen some movement every time some of these palace intrigue stories start to become public. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what do you make of that? Does it make it more difficult for you guys when these stories bubble over, or no?
Look, we've been confident for a long time that we have had a very good dialogue between the administration, Secretary Mnuchin at Treasury, Gary Cohn, along with our counterparts in congressional leadership working on tax. And you're going to see the result of that, which is a clear outline of how we can get tax reform through Congress and debated in the public in September and get it done in a bill to be put on the president's desk and signed by the end of this year. And I think that's going to be something that not just the markets are going to appreciate, by the way, Kevin. I think Main Street America, which has not benefited from the same type of growth and stimulation the market has over the last 10 years, is going to appreciate the fact that we are focused on middle income tax cuts, that we're focused on small business tax cuts as well, simplifying the code, doubling the standard deduction. These are all important things that this tax code is going to be able to do that brings real relief to small businesses and middle income Americans.
Corporate tax rate, what range are you looking at?
Look, the president campaigned and won on a 15% rate. We feel that is the most pro-growth rate. There's clearly going to be ongoing conversation. This is now going to go to 2 committees of jurisdiction on Capitol Hill. We stand firm that the lower the better, and the lower is going to actually create the greatest growth, and that's an essential part of this tax reform.
There's some reports that some advisors in the White House are pushing for raising taxes on the wealthy as much as 45%, one report I read. Is that true?
Look, that's not part of the framework we're focused on right now.
Okay.
We think that we have to lower taxes across the board. I mean, when you think about the fact that we are collapsing from 7 to 3 brackets, that we've already set lower rates in each of those brackets, that's pro-growth tax reform. That's what we're focused on.
Let me just, last question. We've got a little bit of time left. North Korea sanctions. I mean, what you guys are dealing with a ton of sanctions, Venezuela as well. Or can we anticipate new sanctions with Venezuela or North Korea in the coming days ahead?
The Secretary has made it very clear that we are very concerned about both those theaters. We know at Treasury we have some very powerful tools in our arsenal vis-a-vis sanctions, and when necessary we will act and we will use them.